I've been around long enough to notice something fascinating about human beings. We all want things to get better. We want more money, better relationships, good health, peace of mind. But here's the interesting part. Most people want things to change without them having to change. They want the harvest without planting the seeds. They want the reward without doing the work. And that's just not how life works. Let me tell you something straight. If you want your life to change, you have to change. If you want things to get better, you have to get better. It's not going to happen by luck. It's not going to happen because you wish for it. You've got to force yourself to grow. And I use that word deliberately, force, because growth is not always comfortable. In fact, most of the time, it's downright uncomfortable. See, here's what happens to most people. They get comfortable. They find a routine, a paycheck, a circle of friends, and they settle in. And slowly, without even realizing it, they stop growing. They stop reading. They stop learning. They stop challenging themselves. And 5 years later, 10 years later, they're the same person they were before, only older and more frustrated. And they wonder why nothing's changed. I'm telling you right now, if you don't like how your life is going, look at yourself. Not your boss, not the economy, not your circumstances. Look at you. Because that's where the problem is, and that's also where the solution is. You see, personal development isn't something you do when you have time. It's not a hobby. It's a necessity. It's like eating. You wouldn't say, well, I'll eat when I feel like it, would you? No, because if you don't eat, you die. Same thing with growth. If you're not growing, you're dying inside. Your dreams are dying, your potential is dying, and that's a tragedy. Now, here's what forcing yourself to grow looks like. It means picking up books when you'd rather watch television. It means listening to something valuable when you're driving instead of just music or mindless talk. It means surrounding yourself with people who challenge you instead of people who just agree with everything you say. It means doing the hard thing, the uncomfortable thing, because you know that's where the growth is. I'll tell you a story. When I was younger, I wasn't doing well. I was broke. I had pennies in my pocket and nothing in the bank, and I was making excuses, blaming the government, blaming my job, blaming everything except myself. Then I met a mentor who changed my life. He said, Jim, if you want to be successful, you've got to work harder on yourself than you do on your job. That hit me like a ton of bricks. See, I was working hard on my job, putting in the hours, but I wasn't working on me. I wasn't reading. I wasn't learning new skills. I wasn't changing my philosophy. And if you don't change your philosophy, your life stays the same. Simple as that. So I started forcing myself to grow. I started reading books I wouldn't normally read. I started going to seminars. I started asking successful people questions. And you know what happened? I started changing. My thinking changed. My habits changed. My results changed. Not overnight, but gradually, consistently, powerfully. Here's the key. You can't just want to grow. You have to make yourself grow. Because your brain, your body, your habits, they all prefer comfort. They prefer the familiar. You've got to override that. You've got to say, I don't care if this is uncomfortable. I don't care if this is hard. I'm doing it because my future depends on it. And let me tell you something else. The biggest enemy of growth isn't failure. It's comfort. When you're comfortable, you don't feel the urgency to change. You think, well, things aren't great, but they're okay. And okay becomes the enemy of excellent. Okay keeps you stuck for years, for decades, for a lifetime. Don't settle for okay. Force yourself out of that zone. Do something that scares you a little bit. Take a class. Start a project. Have a difficult conversation. Whatever it is that you've been avoiding because it's uncomfortable, that's probably exactly what you need to do. Now, some people say, Jim, what if I fail? Well, let me ask you this. What if you succeed? What if you try something new and it works? What if you push yourself and you discover abilities you didn't even know you had? That's what happens when you force yourself to grow. You surprise yourself. But even if you fail, you learn. And learning is growing. See, failure doesn't set you back. Staying the same sets you back. Every day you're not growing, you're falling behind. The world is moving. Technology is advancing. Other people are learning and improving. If you're standing still, you're actually going backwards. Here's what I want you to understand. Life doesn't get better by chance. It gets better by change. And change starts with you forcing yourself to do what you don't feel like doing. Reading when you're tired. Learning when you're busy. Trying when you're scared. That's how you grow. That's how you transform your life. You know, I look at people and I can tell who's growing and who's coasting. The ones who are growing, they have this energy about them. They're excited. They're curious. They're always talking about what they're learning, what they're trying. The ones who are coasting, they complain. They blame. They're tired all the time, not because they're working hard, but because they're not growing. And a life without growth is exhausting. So here's my challenge to you. Starting today, force yourself to grow. Make it non-negotiable. Every single day, do something that makes you better. Read 10 pages of a good book. Listen to something educational. Work on a skill. Have a meaningful conversation. Whatever it is, do it consistently. Because small daily improvements lead to massive long-term results. And don't wait until you feel motivated. Motivation comes and goes. Discipline is what changes your life. Force yourself even when you don't feel like it. Especially when you don't feel like it. That's when it counts the most. I'm telling you, if you commit to growing every single day for the next year, you won't even recognize yourself. Your thinking will be different. Your confidence will be different. Your results will be different. But you've got to force it. You've got to make it happen. Nobody's going to do it for you. Life rewards those who grow. It rewards those who push past comfort and embrace the challenge of becoming more. And that's available to you right now. Not someday. Not when things get easier. Right now. Today. This moment. Let me share something with you that changed everything for me. I realized that we don't get paid for the hour. We get paid for the value we bring to the hour. And your value doesn't increase by accident. It increases when you deliberately, intentionally work on yourself. When you force yourself to become more valuable to the marketplace, to your family, to yourself. Think about it. If you're the same person next year that you are today, why would your results be any different? They won't be. Same thinking, same actions, same results. But if you force yourself to grow, if you become a better thinker, a better problem solver, a better communicator, then everything changes. Your income changes. Your relationships change. Your whole life trajectory changes. And here's what's beautiful about this. You don't have to change everything overnight. You just have to start. You have to force yourself to take that first step, and then the next one, and then the next one. Growth is cumulative. Every book you read adds to your knowledge. Every skill you develop adds to your value. Every challenge you face adds to your strength. It all adds up. Now, I want to talk about something important. The people around you. When you start forcing yourself to grow, some people aren't going to like it. They're going to say you've changed. And you know what? They're right. You have changed. That's the whole point. Don't let small-minded people hold you back. Don't let people who aren't going anywhere convince you to stop going somewhere. You've got to be very selective about who you spend time with. Because you become like the people you associate with. If you hang around 5 complainers, you'll be the 6th. If you hang around 5 people going nowhere, you'll be the 6th person going nowhere. But if you hang around 5 people who are growing, learning, striving for excellence, guess what happens to you? You become the 6th person doing those things. Force yourself to upgrade your associations. I know that sounds harsh, but it's necessary. You can love people from a distance, but you've got to protect your growth. You've got to protect your dreams. Because most people will try to talk you out of your dreams, not because they're bad people, but because they're not pursuing their own dreams, and it makes them uncomfortable to see you pursuing yours. Here's another thing about forcing yourself to grow. It requires you to become comfortable with being uncomfortable. Most people spend their whole lives trying to avoid discomfort. They want the easy path, the comfortable chair, the familiar routine. But greatness doesn't come from comfort. It comes from pushing yourself beyond what you think you're capable of. I remember when I first started speaking in public, I was terrified. My hands would shake, my voice would crack, but I forced myself to do it anyway. Because I knew that if I wanted to share my message, if I wanted to help people, I had to get over my fear. And every time I did it, it got a little easier. Not because speaking became less scary, but because I became stronger. That's what forcing yourself to grow does. It makes you stronger. And let me tell you something about strength. It's not just physical, it's mental, it's emotional, it's spiritual. When you force yourself to grow, you're building strength in every area of your life. You're building the strength to keep going when things get tough, the strength to believe in yourself when nobody else does, the strength to do what needs to be done even when you don't feel like doing it. That's the kind of strength that changes lives. Not the strength to lift weights, but the strength to lift yourself up when you've been knocked down. The strength to start over when you've failed. The strength to keep growing when it would be easier to quit. Now, let me ask you something. What would your life look like if you forced yourself to grow every single day for the next 5 years? Can you imagine? The books you'd read, the skills you'd develop, the person you'd become. It's almost unimaginable. But here's the thing, it's possible. It's absolutely possible. But only if you start. Only if you force yourself to begin that journey today. You see, most people overestimate what they can do in a year and underestimate what they can do in 5 years. They want instant results. They want the microwave success. But real growth, lasting growth, takes time. It takes consistency. It takes forcing yourself to show up every single day and do the work, even when you don't see immediate results. Think of it like planting a tree. You don't plant a seed today and expect shade tomorrow. You plant it, you water it, you take care of it, and years later, you've got shade, you've got fruit, you've got something valuable. Same thing with personal growth. You invest in yourself today, and years later, you reap the rewards. But you've got to be patient, you've got to trust the process. And here's what makes it easier. When you force yourself to grow, you start to enjoy the process. At first, it's hard, it's discipline, it's willpower. But after a while, it becomes part of who you are. You become someone who reads, who learns, who grows. It's no longer something you have to force. It becomes something you want to do. It becomes part of your identity. That's when real transformation happens. When growth becomes who you are, not just something you do. When you can't imagine going a day without learning something new, without challenging yourself, without pushing your limits. That's when you know you've made it. Not when you've achieved some external goal, but when you've become someone who's committed to lifelong growth. Let me share with you what I call the law of diminishing intent. It says that the longer you wait to do something, the less likely you are to do it. If you have an idea to start growing, to read a book, to take a class, and you wait, that intention diminishes. It gets weaker. Life gets in the way. Excuses pile up. And before you know it, another year has passed, and you're still in the same place. That's why you've got to force yourself to act now. Unfortunately. Not tomorrow, not next week, not when you feel ready. Now. Because you'll never feel completely ready. There will always be reasons to wait. But successful people don't wait. They act. They force themselves to begin even when conditions aren't perfect. And here's a secret. Once you force yourself to take that first step, momentum builds. It gets easier. That first page of the book is the hardest. That first day at the gym is the hardest. That first attempt at something new is the hardest. But once you push through that resistance, once you force yourself past that initial discomfort, it gets better. Momentum takes over. And suddenly, you're not forcing yourself anymore. You're being pulled forward by your own progress. I've seen this happen thousands of times. Someone decides to change. They force themselves to start. They struggle at first, but they keep going. And 6 months later, a year later, they're a completely different person. They've transformed their life. And they always say the same thing. I wish I had started sooner. Don't be that person who looks back with regret. Be the person who forces themselves to start today. Now, let me talk about what happens when you don't grow, when you don't force yourself to change. You stagnate, you get bitter, you get frustrated, you see other people succeeding, and you wonder why not you. And the answer is always the same. They grew and you didn't. They forced themselves to become more and you stayed the same. That's a hard truth, but it's a truth you need to hear. Because once you accept that, once you take responsibility for your own growth, everything changes. You stop being a victim. You stop blaming. You stop waiting for someone to save you. You realize that you have the power to change your life, but you've got to exercise that power. You've got to force yourself to use it. So here's what I want you to do. Right now, today, make a decision. Decide that you're going to force yourself to grow. Decide that you're going to become a student of life. Decide that you're going to read, learn, develop, and improve every single day. Make that decision and commit to it. Write it down. Tell someone about it. Make it real. And then, starting today, take action. Pick up a book. Listen to something educational. Work on a skill. Do something, anything, that moves you forward. And tomorrow, do it again. And the next day, do it again. Build the habit. Build the discipline. Build the momentum. Because I promise you this. If you force yourself to grow, if you commit to becoming better every single day, your life will change. Not might change, will change. It's a law. It's as reliable as gravity. You grow, your life grows. You improve, your circumstances improve. It's inevitable. But you've got to do it. Nobody can do it for you. Your mama can't do it. Your spouse can't do it. Your boss can't do it. You've got to force yourself. You've got to take responsibility. You've got to make it happen. And when you do, when you commit to this path of growth, you'll look back years from now and you won't believe how far you've come. Unfortunately. Unfortunately. You'll be amazed at what you've accomplished, at who you've become, and it all started with a decision to force yourself to grow, a decision to change your life. So make that decision today. Force yourself to grow. Push past the comfort. Embrace the challenge. Do the work. And watch what happens. Watch how your life transforms. Watch how you transform. Because that's what's waiting for you on the other side of growth. A better life, a better you. And you deserve that. But you've got to earn it. Starting right now.